What is it called? Bookslingers Love?
Bookslingers love.
Bookslingers Love.
Books.
Bookslingers love.
Bookslingers love.
Bookslingers.
Books.
No! Books!
Bookslingers love.
Bookslingers. That's
What's a
ridiculous.
linger?
Bookslingers.
Bookslingers love.
Bookslingers Love.
Books.
It's
Bookslingers
just
love.
40 minutes of us just trying to
Yeah.
do a tongue twister.
Bookslingers.
Okay, panel's over. Thanks, everybody.
All right. So,
Well. See ya.
thank you. Hi, and welcome to Bookslingers Love here at the San Diego Festival of Books, a panel featuring 8 of our local independent bookstores. You're going to hear recommendations from each of our independent booksellers here, some of their favorite reads. You're also going to hear about their stores and how you can support them during this challenging environment. My name is Scott. I'm with the San Diego Public Library Foundation. And I just wanted to be here today to thank the San Diego Union-Tribune for putting this festival together. I know it means a lot to both public libraries and independent bookstores because we all believe in a community of literacy. And the festival has been great. I think it's really proven that San Diego is a book town. And I think that libraries and bookstores play an important part in the community. And, you know, some people think that bookstores and libraries are rivals because libraries, we give books away for free. But I think what we really do is create readers, the next generation of readers. So our independent bookstores are precious to us as lovers of libraries as well. So I just wanted to be here and say that now is the time to support us both. You can go to Libraries Transform SD to help the library, and then you can support all of these great independent bookstores individually, and they'll tell you each how you can do so. So let's start off today with Seth at the Book Catapult, your first book. There's bookmark.
Marketing right here.
Branding, that's pretty impressive.
Yep. So I'm Seth Marco from the Book Catapult. We're a bookstore in the South Park neighborhood on Juniper Street. I've been there about 3 years. And during COVID, we were mostly doing website orders, but for the last time really makes no sense anymore. 2 months we've been open for front door pickup. So we can help people at the front door, help you find anything we've got in the shop, which is plenty. We're a small staff, real small bookstore. There's only 4 of us total that work there right now. So we're all hands on deck all the time, except for me right now. I'm at home instead of being in the store. So my first, my only pick today is the best book that I've read this year is Kawhi Strong Washburn's debut novel, Sharks in the Time of Saviors. It's a novel about family from Hawaii, and there's 3 siblings in this family. And at the beginning of the story, they're all pretty young, and they're on a boat trip together as a family. And the youngest son falls in the water, and there are sharks, as you can tell from the title, sharks in the water. But rather than this gruesome scene, it's one of the sharks picks this kid up in his mouth and carries him back to the ship. And it turns out that this young man has this kind of strange ability to both commune with nature in that kind of way, where he has like a weird connection to things, but also he can heal you, and kind of he absorbs everybody's bad juju, I guess, whether it's the disease or anguish, I guess. So there's that story of it, and that's sort of what the book is about. But about halfway through it, it becomes something else, where there's sort of a tragic moment for this family that happens, and it becomes more about this family unit, about this family, the family dynamics, where each chapter is a different character's perspective on what's happening. And then towards the end, it all comes back around to being more about the sort of magic of Hawaii and the sort of Hawaiian mythology. Got better as I went, I thought, which is kind of an unusual thing in a novel sometimes. I feel like I liked what I was reading at the beginning, but it became a very different story as I went on, and all of that informed, the greater whole. I feel like I'm over my time, but like I said, this is the best book that I've read this year, and this is a year with a David Mitchell novel in it. Don't tell David I said that, but you knew I was going to plug it. This is
inside joke. That's inside joke.
happening with David Mitchell.
So good.
Thank you, Seth. That's amazing. Sounds like a Life of Pi, except with sharks instead of tigers. Is that fair? No.
Way better than Life of Pi.
I'm just kidding. So Julie from Warwick's. Full disclosure, Seth and I both worked at Warwick's with Julie in a past life. Great independent bookstore. Julie, tell us about your book and your shop.
There we go. I was going to mention that. That was part of my thing, that you guys are the legacy of Warwick's. 1896, but maybe you haven't worked there that long.
1971 is.
There you go. See, so Warwick's, for people who don't know, Nancy Warwick is the fourth generation owner of I'm Julie Svinsky. I do the events at Warwick's. Nancy Warwick is the fourth generation owner. Her great-great-grandfather started it in 1896. We've been in La Jolla since the 30s, in the building that we're at since the 50s. And like Scott mentioned, some legacy people here, Seth and Scott, contributed to what makes Warwick's what Warwick's is. So during COVID, we're doing the same thing as Seth, curbside pickup, delivery, all of that website. We actually opened the store the end of May to customers coming in with masks, social distancing. So like with everybody, any way you can get a book, you can get it from us or any one of these booksellers. We can ship, deliver, we can do whatever you need to do to get a book. So anyways, that's a little bit about Warwick's. Check out our website. I have to plug events. I'm the events person. So we're doing virtual events every day, sometimes twice a day. So I know a lot of people are zoomed out, but we're bringing you some good content and some interesting authors. So check out the website, and you can join our email list there to find out more information about what the events are. So my book today is, it's kind of a light cover, so you can't really see it too well, but it's Migrations by, and I always mess her name up, Charlotte McConaughey. No, I screw it up. Anyways, hopefully she's not watching. Charlotte, if you are, sorry about that. so when I read
the internet for content
on a Saturday,
like
the Festival of the Book, she probably popped in and said, "God, that woman doesn't know how to say my name." Anyways, when I read this book, it was and still is the best book that's published this year, in my opinion. This book has something for everybody. Yeah, no, honest to God, Seth. No, sorry, Migrations. The shark's going after Migrations. It has something for everybody. I don't really want to give too much away because it was one of those books that you really just have to pick up and read, but it's got great characters. It's set in a not too distant future. Girl kind of cons her way onto a shipping vessel to follow the last migration of the Terns, I believe they are. Anyways, but while it's about that, it's really about her and her characters, and the sub-characters are fantastic. And really what it comes down to, it's about choices. And the choices that we make and how they affect and stay with us. There's a mystery to it. There's really just something for everybody in this book. And I will say this is the best book published this year. So, Migrations.
Wow. It sounds like we're going to have a arm wrestling tournament at the end of this to determine, right?
Bring it on.
So let's go to Mimi at La Playa Books. Mimi, how you doing? I like your globe, by the way.
Thank you. It's actually a liquor cabinet. There's some rum and some
Wow.
Glasses.
I should have asked before I asked.
I'm coming to you from La Playa Books. This is our rare book office and facility. So we are a new and used store in the Point Loma neighborhood on Rosecrans behind, in between Upshur and Canyon. So we've been around for about 4 years, I think. And so we are in the time of COVID doing a pop-up tent that we just started in our parking lot on Upshur and Rosecrans. So that's on Saturdays and Sundays. And the rest of the time you can order from us in various ways, used books, new books, rare and collectible books. And just check out our website, www.laplayabooks.com, and it'll tell you all the different ways that you can buy from us. So I am Mimi Hannon, and I'm the buyer at La Playa Books. And one of my other jobs is to run our book clubs, which are now virtual on Zoom. And so my first pick is Empire of Wild by Sherry DeMoline. And this is the book that we're reading for our new and noteworthy book club for the month of, where are we? September?
August,
September.
could be September.
Yeah. So this is, so the author is Canadian, and she is of mixed white and First Nations heritage. First Nations is what they call Native American folk up in Canada. And so she talks about a community that's on the north side of Lake Michigan. And there's a woman whose husband has disappeared, and they were deeply, deeply in love. And he's been missing for just about a year, and she just can't let it go. She can't stop looking for him. So in the community, there is a mythological tradition of a rougarou, which is kind of like a werewolf. So there is some speculation that he has been taken by a rougarou or has become a rougarou. And so she and her little nephew, who's a great character in it, go looking for her husband. And it turns out that he's, I don't want to give away too much of it, but there's another tradition of the sort of the werewolves of Germany that come into it. So there's, evangelicals who may be bad werewolves. And it sounds a lot more fantastical than it is. It's actually pretty grounded in reality. And I just thought it was a great story, a great way to hear mythology about a different community that I didn't know about. And I'm super excited to discuss it with our book club.
Cool. Thank you, Mimi. I think werewolves is a good segue over to Mysterious Galaxy, right?
Yeah.
Jenny's with us. Jenny, you are a brand new owner of an independent bookstore. So welcome to the independent bookseller community. How's it going over there?
It's going good, actually. So Mysterious Galaxy has been around almost 3 decades, but as Scott mentioned, my partner and I are new owners as of the 2nd of this year, I believe. So we've had an interesting experience with that. Like everybody else, we've been, moved online, moved virtual. We are running curbside pickup. But other than that, we can find most books for you. But our thing is we really specialize in genre literature. So sci-fi, fantasy, mystery, YA, horror, romance. We've got a lot of booksellers that are like really into specific genres. So we love talking about that. And we are also still running a bunch of virtual events. So we've got some great ones coming up. And my pick was actually an author, which was for one of my favorite events this year, is for A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow. And not only is it one of the best books I've read, it's like one of the best covers I've ever seen. It's beautiful, but it is a YA fantasy about Tavia and Effie, who are sisters. And Tavia is a siren. And it's kind of set in Portland and in a world where there's kind of a secret society of sirens and people who protect sirens, because sirens are they're seen as very dangerous, and they're also always Black women. So there's a lot of commentary on that. And so these 2 girls are kind of trying to navigate high school and their lives kind of amid a nationwide controversy over kind of a trial happening about a Black woman who was murdered but was now suspected to be a siren. And so that's kind of the background setting for it, while Tavia is trying to figure out who she is and who she is as a siren and who she is as a person. And Effie, her sister, is trying to help her, but also some things are starting to happen to her, like her hair is moving on its own. So figuring out that mystery and what's going on with Effie is the other part of it. But it's a really great book. I thought it was a really new sort of take on world building. And like I said, I really loved listening to Bethany C. Morrow talk about the book. So that is a great thing to look up. And yeah, this is my pick. And again, just the prettiest cover ever.
Cool. I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Mysterious Galaxy's customer base. I think I speak for all the booksellers here that during the annual San Diego Independent Bookstore crawl, of which 8 of the 12 stores are represented here, we love seeing the Mysterious Galaxy customers. They're so passionate about books. They are everything that's good about the word book nerd. That is your customer base. So thank you for continuing the legacy here in town.
They've been fantastic and just so super supportive through everything that's going on.
And let's go now to Terry over at UCSD Bookstore. How are you doing, Terry?
I'm Terry Danherter. I'm the general and medical and wellness buyer at UC San Diego Bookstore, which is actually an independent bookstore. A lot of people don't realize that, but we are non-subsidized, not-for-profit, and independent. And we are currently closed to the public. However, we are doing curbside pickup or window pickup. We have created a whole bunch of virtual stores on our website that are very specific to subjects that are kind of fun to take a look at. And we are doing deliveries, and hopefully we'll be open in September, but we'll see. So my pick that I chose was Crossings by Alex Landdragon. And this was a super fun book to read. I actually had trouble reading in the beginning of all of this because it was hard. And this book kind of reinvigorated me into reading again because it was such an interesting take. It is kind of reminiscent feeling of Mitchell and The Eight, an old book from the 80s. But it's a really fun story. It's about a bookseller in Paris who comes across a manuscript, and it's put together in a certain way where they assume that that's how it is supposed to be bound, but it turns out that it's actually not necessarily how it's supposed to be bound. It's 3 stories, one of which is a lost story of Baudelaire to one of his muse, and another story is a couple in Paris the night before the Nazis invade Paris, and another story is about a woman who kind of transcends time. And I'm not going to tell you too much about it because it'll give away a really cool part of the story. But you can actually read it in 2 ways, straight through, or you can choose to use this code that's on the cover of the book and read it in the order of those pages, and it's a completely different book. So I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I can't wait to read Julie and Mimi's books. And Seth, I agree, Sharks in the Time of Saviors, #1.
Did you read this one twice, Terry?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask too.
I did. Well, I read it, the first time I read it chronologically, and then I read it again, but I skimmed it more than a full read through. And I think I actually would recommend reading it the way it was intended to be read and going by the page numbers.
Doing the code thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting to do that first. Maybe I'll
reminds me of that that book by J.J. Abrams and Doug Dorst. Yeah.
Also, Hopscotch by Julio Cortázar had the same thing.
You always got to make it smart.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Come on.
It's a library. Come on.
That's right, library. Yeah. That, in fact, that's a great point. The library has a great selection of Julio Cortázar, but unfortunately, most of the newer books are on hold right now because the San Diego Public Library has the smallest materials budget of any major library in the United States. So a lot of the books that you guys are slinging here are on endless hold lists because we don't have a lot of materials budget. So Libraries, transformsd.org. Help out. Tell your city council person you want more support for books and libraries. Speaking of more support for books, Marianne from Run for Cover. I'm so glad to see you today. Tell us how you're doing.
I'm good. So I'm speaking to you from my home because unfortunately after 2 years, my little shop, Run for Cover Bookstore, which was located in Ocean Beach on Voltaire Street, appropriately named, had to close. We are one of the casualties of COVID. However, I could not leave this community of amazing readers and booksellers and now friends. So I am continuing my mission online mainly, and in a way COVID is putting us all in the same boat. So I'm doing like everyone else. I'm taking orders online from the faithful community that was built over the last 2 years, and very, very active on social media. I encourage the San Diego Festival of Books readers to join us if you are not members already. Our Instagram page is really active, as well as our Facebook and Twitter. And you can see me running around the neighborhood, literally on my morning run and delivering books. I've had a few encounters with customers while I was running and sweating and holding books.
So you're literally a book slinger.
I am literally.
And she's running.
Yeah.
And a running book slinger.
And running for cover.
Run for cover.
Yeah.
I think you need a catapult.
I'm taking things very literally. And so, but anyway, so we're still around. It's a different form, but we're still doing it. And so my pick today, I feel like I'm the only one who's bringing us back to reality, and I apologize. So my pick is called Members Only. It is definitely by Samir Pandya. I'm going to hold it up a little bit. This book will definitely make it to my top 10 books this year. I read it so quickly. I loved it. The story is the story of Raj Bhatt and his wife Eva and their 2 children. They live a very happy and quiet life in a California coastal town or city. The city is never named, but it really feels like Santa Barbara, and where the author is living. And Raj and his wife are members of an elite tennis club. Eva grew up going to that tennis club with her parents. And Raj is the only brown member of that tennis club, and not only is he a member of the tennis club, he's also a member of the committee deciding on new membership. And he gets very excited when a Black family is invited by current members to apply to become members. But his excitement is sadly very quickly tempered by a very inappropriate use of a term by Raj himself to describe the new, possible new members. And he uses that term, he thinks, as a joke, but obviously it's no laughing matters. The committee is very angry. And in the span of a week, this is the length of the book, his life completely unravels. He works in academia. He's a professor at the local university. He has, a good job. He's happy, and everything just falls apart for him. Samir Pandya writes surprisingly with a lot of humor on a topic or topics that are very, very serious. The topic of racism, of belonging, of community, of elite clubs, academia, and prejudice are all tackled in an incredible narrative matter. I could not put the book down. It was the The writing was flowing. It was easy. It was just great to read. The novel is very tense and sharp, but also very thought-provoking. I think the book will become a favorite of book club and book club discussions. That's my first pick. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. It's great to see you keeping the flame alive as a bookseller.
Thank you.
I know I made a joke earlier about the materials budget for the library being low. But I think it also points to the fact that some of these institutions like libraries or our great independent bookstores are things that we sort of take for granted that they're always going to be here, and they need our support. So it's something we have to actively participate in to support. I know I worked at several bookstores that went out of business in town, including one in Del Mar. So that is a great segue to John, who is a bookseller at Diesel. He just opened a chapter of Diesel in Del Mar after many years where they didn't have a great independent. They now have one. So welcome to town, John.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Marianne, you don't have to apologize for getting real with us all. In fact, it's a great segue because I have a book that's also a nonfiction book. But as we've all experienced, the real world is stranger than fiction anyways at this point. So this is Diesel Bookstore right here. That's my marketing, Seth. And we're at Del Mar Highlands Town Center in Del Mar. We've been in business for 30 years. We were up in Northern California initially, and now we're in Los Angeles and Brentwood and here in Del Mar. We opened on Halloween. And our store is open to either single groups or individuals every day from 10 to 5. So we're also doing curbside pickup and all the special ordering that we're all doing, and ebooks and all that stuff over the website. We're doing book groups online, and we're doing every day at 11 o'clock, we're doing events of various kinds, either ask a reader, ask a bookseller, sales reps. So there's always something going on at 11 o'clock for 11s is for people to take a break and catch a little book information. The book that I was going to talk about today is Caste, subtitled The Origins of Our Discontents. It's by Isabel Wilkerson. I guess I should give it more time up there so that people can really... Many people would know her from The Warmth of Other Suns. She's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. And she's part of I guess you could call it a tradition now, but certainly a community of authors who are journalists writing narrative nonfiction in a way that brings their subjects so much closer to us, so much more like fiction in the way they do their storytelling. She has all kinds of personal stories woven through this sort of revisioning of what our society is structured as. And rather than focusing on race particularly, she focused on caste. She describes caste as being sort of the bone structure of our society and race being the skin. And it's a beautifully written book, and just makes you rethink how all the presumptions we have about the ways in which we judge others and the ways in which we accommodate or embody or enact a caste system. She compares, in particular, India and Nazi Germany, who copied a lot of our racist policies in the 30s and found them a little too severe, which is sort of a shocking fact when you think about it. But so she weaves those in South Africa and other societies that are very caste bound to present an argument that caste is what we are living in, what we are born into, and what we have to undo, and that it's much more complicated than race. But it's a great argument that she makes, and she writes it in a very accessible way, and it just helps us to kind of find our bearings as we have to rethink the society that we're in. So I think it's a very generous book that way too. So that's my book for reading right now, nonfiction. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Last, we have I Made You Wait Till the Very End, Miguel. Miguel and I work together at the library shop. So we called each other last night. We're wearing the same shirt. It didn't really come out, though. We can't see your shirt, Miguel, but there we go. Yes. So we're twinsies. But so Miguel, take it away.
Awesome. So I'm Miguel. I'm with the Library Shop, which is a nonprofit book and gift shop located in the Central Library in downtown San Diego. We have well-curated items for library lovers and book nerds. It is guilt-free shopping because all proceeds help support programming at the 36 branches of the San Diego Public Library system. We are run by the San Diego Public Library Foundation that advocates and fundraises for libraries. You can find us online at libraryshopsd.org. We're currently offering free local delivery and are also doing curbside caravan pop-up shops every Friday at libraries across the city. To get the latest information about that, you can visit libraryshopsd.org. And so my pick is The Deviant's War, The Homosexual versus the United States of America by Eric Cervini. This is the first book by award-winning historian of LGBTQ plus culture and politics, Eric Cervini. He graduated with honors from Harvard College and has a PhD in history from the University of Cambridge. Do not be intimidated by its title. This is not an academic book. This nonfiction book reads like a third-person thriller and is a true page-turner. This is the first published account of astronomer Frank Kameni's fight against the U.S. government's persecution of homosexual federal employees in the 1960s, and really does a great job of capturing the birth of the gay liberation movement and highlights the intersectionality with the Black freedom movement. In the 1960s, federal government employees were fired when they were discovered to be homosexual, simply based on their sexuality, not any other crimes. The FBI would actually stalk homosexuals, sometimes baiting them into sexual activity or recording encounters in public restrooms without their consent or knowledge. If you were discovered to be a homosexual by the FBI, you ran the risk of having your name printed in the newspaper and your employer being notified. If you worked for the federal government, you were fired almost immediately. So the book flows between the personal and intimate and into the public and chaotic battle for gay civil rights. It highlights the first pickets of homosexual rights, various lawsuits, and the Stonewall riots, and it shines a light on the historical figures who fought for the rights that the LGBTQ plus community has now. With the recent U.S. Supreme Court ruling on the 1964 Civil Rights Act and how it protects gay, lesbian, and transgender employees from repercussions based on sexual orientation, the monumental significance of this book is felt now and will be noted for ages, as it covers LGBTQ plus history without any judgment. This book is interesting, informative, significant, and a great read, and I really highly recommend it.
Cool. Thank you, Miguel. This concludes the first round. So we've got a little bit of time left. Seth, why don't we do a speed round? And we'll just do same order as we did before. I won't interject. So we'll just pass the baton. So Seth, you start. Okay, Julie. Wait, sorry.
Just real quickly, this is a book that's out right now, Desert Notebooks by Ben Ehrenreich. I'm reading this right now, and it's one of the best books I've read in a while. It's sort of hard to peg. I don't know if anybody else has read this. It's personal memoir, but also nature writing about the desert, which is what I thought it was really when I first picked it up, but it's got more in it about, sort of mythology and history, and Ehrenreich is a definite polymath. I mean, he's kind of all over the place, but ties it all together in really kind of an amazing way. It's a beautifully written book. His nature writing is top notch, but he also really mixes in a lot about, this relates to both Caste and the Deviants War, where it's the treatment of indigenous peoples in North America. There's a lot of that in here too. And I guess in today's current climate, it's all stuff that I know, or I think I know, but just reading it again and from his perspective, it's making me feel bad again. I mean, it's really great.
You should feel bad because you just went over it by 20 seconds.
Hey, okay, bye.
Don't take my time, dude.
It's
I'm
fine.
next. Okay, So I said this book was the best book published this year that I've read. So I'll quantify that, right? This is the best book I read this year, though. The Heart's Invisible Furies. And I know it's an older book, and some of you may have already read it. I'm just so mad at myself that I didn't read this 3 years ago when it came out. We just did it for our book club. It was the best book club discussion we've had in years. It's going to end up on my top 10 books of all time. The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne. Read it.
You're the
That's
third
it.
person during COVID to say that was like the best book they've read in the last 4 years.
It's just freaking fantastic. I promise not to cuss.
Okay, so our wine pub book club for September is reading Heavy by Kiese Layman, and this is a memoir. And he has a very complicated history. He was raised in Mississippi by a mother who's very smart, academic, often on the news, talking about her, subject matter expertise. But she's also a compulsive gambler that she hides from her family. So he grows up very close to his grandmother, ends up going to college, getting kicked out of college, graduating from college, becoming a professor at Vassar, where he encounters a bunch of systemic racism and has to reckon with his mom's gambling as well as his own. He has tons of body image issues and becomes both anorexic and obese. It's just, life is complicated and the writing is so fantastic in it. You'll love it. Definitely read Heavy.
All right. My quick pick is The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones.
It's so good.
He's a native horror writer. I just finished it. I am terrified of elk now. I keep thinking that I'm going to see them in the middle of the night, and I never thought elk could be that terrifying. But it's about four childhood friends who kind of 10 years after this event that happened, they're being kind of stalked by the Elkhead woman, and it's creepy. It is like really unnerving. There's a lot of great imagery and gruesome imagery, and just kind of, it's a really, really good horror read that is kind of a recent release. So
my wife was stalked by a pregnant elk in Colorado, so there could be a whole nother panel just talking about animal attacks.
That really aligns with parts of this book.
Yeah,
so
I will recommend it to her. Yeah,
it actually does.
Terry.
Okay, I am going to recommend some nonfiction, Underland by Robert McFarlane. OMG, he's such a beautiful writer and strange, and he travels around the world and meets with different kinds of people who have completely different things that they do that involve being underground. And each story chapter takes you kind of on an adventure that is very much about people, about life, about death, about mythology and history. And I couldn't put it down. I really had a hard time putting this book down because it was just so interesting to read, and I love it. And I recommend it, and it comes out next Tuesday.
In paperback.
Yeah, one of the best books I've ever read in my life.
I read it because Seth told me to. It was great. Ariane. Yeah, you're on mute. We'll fix this in post-production.
Here we go. So again, very much in reality, the book I recommend is called Sex and Lies by Leila Slimani, translated from French. Leila Slimani is also the author of a book that I loved, a fiction mystery called The Perfect Nanny, which was a really great book, very often sold at my store. When Leila Slimani is from Morocco originally, she lives in France now. When she promoted her first book, Adele, which deals with a woman addicted to sex, when she promoted the books in Morocco, she met a ton of women who spontaneously came to talk to her about their intimate life as Moroccan women in the Arab world, and she decided to write some of those stories, and those stories are gut-wrenching. I read it last week while I was camping, and it kept me up several nights in a row because those stories will just haunt you. I call it, and I'm not the only one, I think I saw it in the back of the book, it's the Three Women by Lisa Taddeo, book of the Arab world or the Muslim world or Northern Africa. This is that good. The translation sometimes is a little wonky, but stick with it. And I'm a former translator, so I don't want to blame the translator. It's just that it's a topic that I think is hard to write about, period. But it's beautifully done and highly recommended. Sex and Lies, Leila Slimani.
Cool.
Okay, so this is the book that I would recommend in the lightning round. The Dictionary of the Undoing, which has an afterword by Valeria Luiselli. But it's by John Freeman, who's a poet, editor. He edited Granta for quite a while and then also edits Freeman's Quarterly. So where Wilkerson is a journalist writer and brings that point of view, he brings the poetic mind to our everyday speech and how it's been distorted by corporations, by media, and by political parties, and tries to reinvigorate it for our time. It is so beautiful, so conversational, so accessible, and like you're sitting down with him. These are the words in the dictionary. And each of those gets a little essay, and then they build on each other. The structure of the book is astounding. I don't know where he found the time to do it, because he did it before this whole lockdown and COVID-19 thing, but how he developed the time and the presence of mind to write it, it is beautiful. Dictionary of the Undoing by John Freeman.
Cool. Miguel.
And then my lightning round pick is The Gravity of Us by Phil Stamper. It's a really cute teenage gay romance in Texas story, and it covers the history of NASA. It highlights the moon landing and space exploration while also setting it in today's world with the premise of the first human mission to Mars. There's a lot of great social commentary on the impact of social media, the dark side of reality TV, space exploration, and the generational gaps. It is fun and a quick read and perfect for the summer. That's my recommendation.
Cool. Would you volunteer to go to Mars, Miguel?
No. They're not coming back. In the book, they're not coming back. It's a permanent goodbye.
All right. Well, that concludes the booksellers' picks. Julie, you have some closing remarks, maybe? You have a question. We're doing Q&A now.
Q&A?
Yes, Julie.
Mimi, to let the people know in the audience, this will be a bookshop link with all of these picks, correct?
Yes, so for all of the wonderful authors and books that you've heard about in all of these panels for the San Diego Festival of Books, there is a bookshop.org page for SDFOB, where you can buy all of our recommendations as well as all of the panelists' books, and the proceeds of that go to support the 8 stores here. So we appreciate every dollar that you spend on books.
And then also on our individual websites today, it's August 29th when this airs, which is the sort of San Diego virtual book crawl day. So if you spend $30 at any of our shops, you get the exclusive Susie Garamani pin that we were planning to give away during a physical book crawl. And so we're just going to have it available to anyone who makes a purchase today while supplies last. Any other closing remarks?
There's special independent bookstore day merchandise too, correct? That some of us have,
Yeah, we
maybe?
have totes. There's a really cute tote. T-shirts, I think.
And you can see those, I guess, on our websites, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe so. Maybe we'll put a little slide that pops up on the screen right now so it doesn't sound like we're just winging it. But
I like winging it.
I do want to thank the Festival Books and the Union-Tribune for just letting us do this. We've all been on the committees that have sort of curated the authors for the last 4 years. We're really looking forward to seeing everybody in person in 2021. So until then, thanks for supporting independent bookstores. See you later.
Bye.
Thank you.